Good evening everybody, Calm Biker here. Behind you man, Graham Calvert, Adventures with Woody. That channel name is a bit old now, Graham. Oh, I don't know. The OCD should be getting to you now that Woody's gone. Should be Adventures with Graham. Or, as I've said before, Dotty Adventures. We're out for an evening ride. It's the first time I've been for a ride with Graham in a little while, since he had his off. In fact, I wasn't riding with him when he had his off. I went and helped him pick up the bike, but I went in the car. And we're out on a lovely, lovely, lovely Wednesday evening. I think it's about the 17th of June. And it's so hot. It's unbelievably hot. We're clearly not geared up for it. By the way, I don't really have a topic. This is just going to be a Tower of Babble, so if it gets out at all. But yeah, it's so hot. I went for a walk at lunchtime, so I'm lucky enough to work from home, as you probably know if you've been following my channel for a while. So I had a quick half-hour break at lunchtime, quick walk, and they resurfaced the roads around us about a month ago. I say resurfaced, they poured a thin layer of that black tar on and then covered it in chippings. And today it's so hot. I was looking at the road and thinking that looks blacker than it should be, and there seem to be tyre tracks on it. And you think, why are there tyre tracks on a road? Has somebody been doing burnouts or something silly? But it turns out that all of the black gooey stuff has gone back to goo from being solid. It's absolutely melted, and just walking across the road, my shoes were picking all the chippings up. So the tyre tracks were actually where cars have driven across and pulled all the chippings off the road and returned it to its former glory, but covered in this horrible tar stuff. So it's proper hot. My outdoor thermometer, not one on the wall, one that's actually kind of got a probe in the air, said that it was 29.7 degrees Celsius. Or in Yorkshireese, blooming hot, lad. Anyway, we're off out for a ride for, in theory, a cup of tea, but it might be a cold drink. And I'm going to stop off a couple of times to see if I can get a new intro clip. I redid my intros a little while ago. I did 5 of them, I think, 5 or 6, where I was in them. So I would start the intro with me gazing wistfully into the distance at something, and then end with me riding off. And there was one of them that I did at the side of a road on the top of a big hill, side of a field. And when I came to look at it afterwards, I thought, it looks like I've stopped off for a wee, and I've forgotten the camera's running, and for some reason I've turned that into an intro. And I thought to myself, if anybody ever comments on that, I'm changing my intros again. And the last time I used that one, somebody said, looks like you stopped off for a pee. So I'm recording some new ones. I've got 2 so far. You may have seen more than that by the time I put this up, because I have actually recorded another video and maybe a short one. So there may be another 2 videos since using the 2 intros I've got. And I haven't edited them up yet, so they'll probably get whatever intros I record tonight on them. So this evening it's vents open, airflow as much as we can possibly get, no heated grips, and I think Graham just having another go on his bike since the off. If you're not a follower of Graham, he took his bike a little bit off-road, but when he got down the track that he was going down, it ended up being a lot worse than he thought it was going to be. So it started off as a kind of gravelly track and ended up as a huge muddy mess. And unfortunately he went along the middle of the road between 2 ruts and lost traction on his back wheel, which fell down into one of the ruts, and he ended up dropping the bike, and the handlebars ended up lower than the wheels. So the handlebars were in the rut, the wheels up in the air. He couldn't lift it by himself, which is not surprising. It's quite a heavy bike, and bikes aren't the easiest things to lift anyway. But when you're basically trying to turn it the right way up, it was kind of like when you were a kid and you had to do a puncture on your bicycle. So you whip the bicycle upside down It was trying to right it because the bicycle's tad lighter. So I got there in the car. Mrs. C came with us, and between the three of us we managed to drag it across so it wasn't so much in the rut, and then lift it up. And I have to say, the Africa Twin is a tough old beastie. He broke his mirror off, but he's bought another one from a scrapyard, second hand, for about 25 quid. He got a couple of little scuffs, and he broke the handguard, which we've tried to repair with the old super glue and bicarbonate of soda, except I didn't have bicarb, I only had baking soda, which isn't quite as good. But it's holding up so far. And then the crash bars were a little bit bent, but they've popped back into place. And the handlebars are just a tad off. You can tell that where they're mounted, the right hand side is just slightly closer to the rider than the left hand side. But not enough to actually have any bearing on the handling at all. So it may well be that if you were to want it to be absolutely perfect, that you might have to look at fixing the mounts or even replacing the mounts. Hopefully not the headstock. The bars, he thinks there might be a small bend in the bars, but I'm not sure. I tend to think it might just be where the mount is. And it might be that they're poppable back in at some point when you've got the front end off. It's just hard to get underneath them to actually loosen off the mounts themselves. The top of the mounts where the bars go in, we popped them off, and that helped a great deal in straightening the thing up. But the bottom mounts, you have to take the front end off the bike, and it was too much hassle for the amount of time we had at the time to look at it. But at some point I'm sure we'll get the front end off it and see if we can straighten that as well. But certainly it's not worth 200 quid for a set of new bars, and probably hundreds of pounds for new mounts and headstock when it's entirely rideable without it. And there's always that risk, isn't there, that you replace all of that stuff and then it falls off its stand into the wall, or you drop it again and you're back to square one and just a few hundred quid lighter. So I think he's probably going to stick with it as it is. I think he might be vlogging, you know. I keep seeing hand movements. You can certainly smell the pigs tonight. That's the worst time of year when you live in these kind of areas, where it's really hot, so you want your windows open, but where the muck's spreading or the pigs are out. So you've got a choice between heat or stink. It's not a good choice. I was working with somebody the other day remotely, doing some software development, bit of pair programming as we call it, where there's two of us tackling the same problem at the same time. And he had to take a 5-minute rest because he'd had his windows open and suddenly they'd started muck spreading. And he said the stench was so strong, it actually interfered with his ability to think. Only so many senses would work at once, and the smell and probably taste were overwhelmed. It smells so bad I can't see. Still, it beats the smell of diesel in my books. Never thought I'd be talking on a video about my preference for the smell of diesel versus pig poo. That was something big hit my head. I guess thrown up off that car. It's raining flies, hallelujah, it's raining flies on my visor. I didn't bring me cleaning cloth because I haven't got that bag on the back seat anymore after the back seat broke, and I've left me cleaning cloth at home. I think we'll have to find a bit of toilet roll and water. I suspect that I may have a fly on the camera by now though, so a lot of this waffling might not make it in. I've deflied the camera because Graham wanted to stop, but he has some ideas for intro locations, and he's not got a face full of flies. I argue that not having a screen on your bike is better because you don't get all that turbulence that a screen gives you, and because I think a bike looks better without a screen. I know many will disagree with me, that's okay, but I have to admit, when it comes to stopping your helmet being covered in flies, well, at least Graham's screen is doing a very good job of it, to the point where he didn't realise I'm thinking that it was so flyy as we came over the hill, until he saw my visor and went, "You're covered in flies." So in our quest for intros, a couple of the places, one's on the seafront. I'm not sure whether it's going to work or not with the camera I've got with me. I think it might need a drone for it, but I don't know, it might be okay. The big guy on the bench. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, it'll either be in an intro by now, or it'll be right, if I manage it, I'll put it on the intro for this one, or it'll be in a previous video, or maybe I'll talk about it in the future. But then two on Oliver's Mount, which kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Oliver's Mount being the racing circuit, the road racing circuit at Scarborough. And if nothing else, it's always nice to have a little ride around Oliver's Mount. It's got some of the best tarmac you'll find. That's one road that they don't just cover with a load of gravel and let it melt when it gets hot. Guy Martin would not be happy. Now I've got that annoying thing with the flies, one that's managed to survive and get inside the helmet, and he's now wandering around in front of my vision. Pesky little things, aren't they? So we're in Scarborough now, going past all the big shops, little out of town shopping area, and up there to the right, where all them trees are, is Oliver's Mount. One of the most terrifying places. I've gone around the circuit many a time at 30 miles an hour, because it's 30 miles an hour public road, but to think they go around at 3-figure speeds, go around hairpins, dragging the knee on hairpins that I go around at 15 miles an hour and think that's a bit quick. And they're doing it all with trees just to the side and very little in the way of safety. The other good thing about it is nice little cafe at the top. Don't know if it's open at the minute with all the whatnots, you know, that we're experiencing, but when it is open, they do a nice cappuccino. Just alongside the Mere. That might make a good intro spot, mightn't it? There's the paddock, and this is the circuit. That's the first hairpin, and we're going around the circuit the wrong way. As I say, it's a public road, and it is a two-way public road, and I guess we're stopping at the start finish. So this is where all the lunatics line up for the race. That's the first intro attempt done. Not sure if it's going to work or not, but I thought I'd try this. You know, the start finish straight little tower, and the Yorkshire Post board with all the Gold Cup winners and Cock of the North and whatnot. Though there's no breeze at all, so it makes the video look like a photograph. So I don't know how well that's going to come out. We're going to head to the top of the circuit and see if we can get something at the top. Graham's just reminded me it's a public road, 30 miles an hour. You wouldn't imagine that this was a racing circuit, would you? It just looks like any other country road. And it's got all of the things to hit that you might imagine on a country road. They really are brave or foolish, one of the two. Probably a bit of both. And just to make it worse, when you come round here, if you do get it wrong, there's a bit of our wood there. I don't think that's going to stop a bike. But as you can see, there's also quite a substantial drop through trees. Graham used to do the paramedicing and medical work here for the circuit, for the racing. And I think he's got quite a tale or two to tell about that kind of thing. And by the look of the way he's gesticulating, I suspect he's telling one of those tales now. So if you want to know what he was saying... Oh, I thought we were going to go down there. Oh, we didn't get to do that hairpin. Yeah, if you want to know what he's saying, head over to his channel. I shall link it. And that there is Scarborough. Showing views is never a good thing on these wide angle lenses. It just never comes out. But it's a lovely view, trust me, over the top of Scarborough. What I'll do is I'll show you a bit of Scarborough as we go through, and then I'll wrap this video up because it's probably gone on quite long enough. This is the south end of Scarborough, just heading down to the seafront. The tide is well and truly in tonight. And I wonder if we're going to see a lot of people, because I think now that people are holidaying in the UK rather than going abroad, I suspect they're getting quite a lot of custom in Scarborough. People say they're having staycations, but I think a staycation is an appalling thing in this country. Not the holiday itself, but the word. Over here it should be a stollidy. Maybe a start night off. But certainly not a staycation. Coming round out of the touristy trap bit into the North Bay, where there's still some touristy trap bits, but not as touristy. And you're prevented from getting there comfortably by this atrocious surface. Don't know why the heck they did that. And then they put this beautiful surface on afterwards. You can come to our North Bay, but you will have spinal damage. The big dude in the seat that I mentioned earlier is on the right there. And I'm not sure I'm going to get the shot I want tonight, so I have to leave that for another day. There he is. Well, I forgot to wrap the video up on the way down there, so I shall wrap it up on the way home. Unbelievably, according to Graham's bike, it's 29 degrees C, the air temperature, even though it's now about 9 o'clock in the evening. What a lovely night. I suspect about to change because I see a big rainbow ahead. The rain god strikes again. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. Ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon.